Welcome back to another episode of Catching Up with Christians. I'm your host, Coach Dan McCarty. Today, I'm alongside my sister, who is actually a volleyball slash basketball and teacher, coach and teacher. So today, we're just gonna kind of dive into a conversation so you can learn more about her and her faith journey and her career and kind of how her faith impacts her job. So, sweet, Meg, thanks for hopping on.
Ooh,
How are you today?
I'm doing swell. How are you?
Yeah,
Just
I'm doing
finished
great.
my teaching day, so that
There
was
you
that was
go.
great.
Sweet. So if you wouldn't mind telling the people kind of who you are, where you teach, and kind of how you got into teaching and coaching.
Okay. So I am Megan Kinkenon. Recently got married, so new name. Um, yep, exciting stuff. I recently got sorry. um Still at school, so
You're
pardon
all
the
good.
interruptions maybe. Um I actually started teaching ooh, right after I got my associates. I became like a long-term substitute teacher while I was finishing up my degree. Um, and that was primarily in the high school area. And then I realized I did not enjoy teaching high schoolers all day and then going and coaching them all day. So I made the transfer over to the elementary school. Once I met my now husband, he actually went to Faith Lutheran High School. Um, he's a faithful, I guess that's what they call him. He introduced me to Faith, the school. And sorry, he got a full teaching job, and
Mm,
still again at that time I was substitute teaching, and because he got a full-time position, they lost a sub, and he was like, "Well, my girlfriend substitutes. I don't know if that's weird, but like I know she's good at her job, so do you want to interview her?" Um so I long-term substitute taught for them for about a year, and then the next year I got hired as third, fourth, and fifth grade PE and athletic director. So I did that for 3 years. And then now I am full time in the classroom, and I teach third grade. And this is my second year. So I guess I've been at Faith for 5 years. If you're counting the substitute year, then six. So long time.
that's awesome.
um, but I love it. It's a great environment. I think it's when I did high school, it was the public school, which I really enjoyed connecting with those students. It was kind of weird because I was just out of college, so I
Mm,
felt like their age. So it was a
yeah.
little weird, but now being at a school where like I can openly talk about God with the kids and they ask me questions
Mm,
about him, I find it really special. So,
that's amazing.
yeah.
Well, let's unpack also the sports side of things. So if you kind of want to tell them, sports you played and, growing up, and then kind of how you got into coaching and that type of stuff.
Yeah, I grew up playing softball until I was about 12ish, I would say. I have really bad joints, and I guess you can figure or find that out at 12 years old. Who would have thought? um, and so I played softball. I was a catcher. Um, I thought I was pretty good for 12, but who knows? um, and so my parents were kind of like, you can't really do softball anymore because of your knees and like joints and all the things. So try to pick another sport. And at that time, my older sister, or our older sister, sorry, that was weird. um, she had just started learning volleyball.
Mm,
And so I just remember playing in our backyard in Kentucky, or was it even backyard field, whatever you want to call it. Playing with her, and she kind of just taught me the basics. And then when we moved back to Vegas, that's when I got really into volleyball, and I played all throughout high school, and then I played 2 years in college. And then in college, I picked up golf.
there
Well,
you go.
so throughout high school, I would randomly go caddy for my biological dad, and never hit really a golf club. Like I was awful. Um, First year in college, they needed one more girl to make a golf team.
Nice.
And the athletic director was like, "Hey, you're athletic. You know golf." And I was like, "No, I don't know golf at all." And he was like, "Well, you know enough. So, like, just come out to the range, come hang out, come take a couple swings. We'll get you going." And I said, "No." I was like, "That's not happening." I was like, "I'm here for volleyball."
Mm.
And he's like, "I could probably get you some more money." And I was like, "All right, I got you." So I went out that next day, or that day actually, after like volleyball weights, and stayed. And I sucked so bad, so bad. But once I found out that I sucked, I was there every day because our home course, like, you could hit balls for free and you could play
Mm.
around for free whenever you wanted, just as long as it wouldn't conflict with like their customers. So I was out there every day. It was bad. You want to know what I shot on my first round, like official tournament?
Sure, let me hear it.
Have I told you before?
No.
No. Um, do you want to guess?
90?
More.
Oh. Like
It's really
105?
embarrassing. What?
105?
More.
What?
It's really embarrassing. You can't pick up your ball ever. Okay? Especially when you get stuck in a sand trap, and it was downpour rain. We're in Washington. It was miserable. It was on my birthday. I will never forget this round of golf.
Like 120.
More.
Wait, what did you shoot?
It was so bad.
Wait, that's like
Literally, at the end of the round, my coach was just up there on top of the hill, arms wide open. Like, I'm so amazed that you did not quit because it was that bad.
Wow. So you gotta tell the people, what was it? We gotta
Oh, it
know.
was a 156. It was so bad. I got
Wait,
stuck.
what's that math? Was 18 holes?
it. It was a lot of strokes per hole. I don't know that math off the top of my head. That's why I'm a third grade teacher.
There you
So
go.
I can use my calculator though, if
I'm
you
doing
want.
it right now for the
All
people.
right. It's
That
pretty
is
bad.
almost 9 strokes a hole.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's so bad. It's so bad. But after that, I realized I like sucked really
Mm,
bad because I got dead last, and I felt bad for the people in my group because like you're matched up with three other people from different schools, so they don't even know you.
mm.
And I warned them before the tournament. I was like, I've never played an official round, so I apologize. Like, I'm not gonna cheat, but just know like I'm gonna suck, right?
Were they nice?
They were.
Okay, that's supportive,
But I
good.
think they got annoyed towards the end
I'm
because
sure.
it was pouring rain and I just held them up a bunch.
So how long did it take? I gotta know that round. How long was that round of golf?
Oh, I don't even know. It's probably, yeah, I don't know. It was so long. But I realized I suck. So then I went out to the range even more, like more than, I don't know, spent hours. And then guess what I shot by the end of the year, the
What?
last tournament season?
What?
Yes,
80.
82.
Wow,
And
that's incredible.
a coach from another team came up, or from another school came up to me. He goes, excuse me, were you the girl that shot the 156 the first tournament? And I said, yep, that's me. I was like, thank you for the reminder. He goes, wow, I'm impressed that you like could shave that much off. I said, me too. Here we
That's
are.
awesome. That's awesome.
So yes.
So you finished your golfing and volleyball career, right? You had some injuries throughout college, right? A
Yeah,
bit to
minor
volleyball.
ones. Yeah, it was like shoulder issues
Mm,
here and there. And that's partly why, like, I feel like if I kept playing like competitively, I just would have wrecked my body. So I stopped.
for sure.
My shoulder is probably still wrecked, but it's okay.
But you still had the
That's good.
passion for the game, though, right? Like you've always had passion for sports. So is that kind of how you wanted to get into coaching? So, like after you played in college, what kind of made you want to transition to the coaching side?
Um, hmm. So in college, actually, I worked with my head coach. She did like a little club
Mm,
scene there, out of the college, and I would just kind of help her here and there with the little kids, and I was like, this is kind of fun. So it grew a little bit or like my passion grew a little bit there with working with the younger kids. And then when I was planning to move back home after playing, my high school coach reached out and was like, I think you're going to make a great coach. Like, do you want to try it out? And like, she's a legend, her.
Coach
So,
Hill.
yeah. So if she's saying that and I got that opportunity, I was like, I might as well, like, because I really didn't know what I wanted to do.
Mm.
I just knew I like wanted to finish school at some point.
Sure.
So, but coaching, I was like, some money on the side, work with some kids and kind of see how it goes. And as soon as I started, like I knew I really enjoyed it, just connecting and building those relationships with the girls. And I had the opportunity to coach men's volleyball as well, which actually still to this day has probably been my most fun season because they're just super energetic and they're so athletic too. They just want to get after it and they're sponges. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So, you coached, different sports, and now tell them what you're doing. What's your most recent coaching endeavor?
Yes. So I coach volleyball still. I'm over at Faith Lutheran High School. I'm the varsity assistant. I've been there for 5 years now. And then at the elementary school that I teach at, they have little sports for little kids, and our school kind of struggles to find coaches.
Nice.
So I offered last year to be the girls basketball coach if they really like could not find anyone. But I think the AD just like ate it up. He's like, oh, I got somebody. Like, here we go. Didn't go look for anybody. And I even told him, I was like, I know basketball. I can YouTube a bunch of stuff. I can figure it out.
For sure.
But I don't know basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, it's elementary. You'll be fine. So we got quite the motley crew this year. But they're really fun. They try really hard. They just can't shoot.
I remember when you first called me, you're like, so yeah, I kind of got this cool opportunity, and I think I want to start coaching basketball for like, the elementary school. I'm like, oh, okay. She's like, yeah, I just have a couple girls who can actually shoot it that high, and then the rest really can't. So do you have any like play recommendations how to like get people to, try to score, but we can't really shoot it up all the way? And I was like, yeah, so I remember those early on conversations about.
So that was last year.
Yeah.
This year, the ability to shoot is like, it's a little less. We're gonna be really good at defense though.
There
so
you
I
go.
think our games are going to be like 3-0 or something random if somebody's able to make a free throw.
That's okay. Defense wins championships, so that's good.
Yeah. Did you see my comment on what the little girl asked me about the games?
Yeah, about the running.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
That's so cute. I guess that's what's fun about coaching that age, right? Like
Yeah.
they're so naive or like don't know yet, right?
They're just innocent. They don't know anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you really get to mold, and I think that's what's like impactful about coaching at the young age, because you really can make an impact for that person, and like they can really grow to love the game depending on how you are as a coach. And I know you are a good coach, but to all the coaches listening for the younger ages, like you really have a big piece of that person wanting to love that sport, or maybe they won't, or wanting to pursue competitive competition. So I think it's really important to remember, like when you have interactions with the younger kids, like to remember that it is a big influence on how much they enjoy that sport.
Yeah, and that's one thing I've noticed, and I noticed it right away last year because I'm like, me, I'm very competitive.
Yeah.
So like high school, I'm one coach, right? But as soon as I'm with these little peeps, I am like a completely different coach because I'm like, you know what? They've never played basketball before. I have 11 on my team, and I think only 2 have played before. So nobody else has played. They don't know what it is. They're with their friends. And like I've taught some of them before. So I'm like, we just want to have fun. This is their little taste. So then next year, like from the 5th graders, I'm like, next year when you get to middle school, you got the little taste and the like happy feel, hopefully. and like you're enjoying it, so then you can hopefully go and um like just keep it going in middle school, I
For sure.
guess. It gets a little more intense, and that's when you start losing some people, but
Yeah, absolutely. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to kind of dive into your like more of like your life journey, and like you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I also think you have a cool story in the sense of you didn't necessarily know what you wanted to do right out of high school or right out of college. Like it took some time. I know you possibly right. You were thinking about becoming like a flight attendant at one point,
oh, all the
or
things
all the
is
things. But I
yeah.
think that's amazing in a way for everybody who's listening that doesn't quite know like what they want in life and those types of things. Like being able to sit back and like trust God that He'll reveal the plan for your life and give you opportunities to try. And you tried a handful of different things, and you
Mhm.
found eventually what your calling was and what you're passionate about. But I
Yeah.
think it could be a really impactful story to people that are kind of like, I need to know what's like what I need to do with my life. I got to know what's going on. But like, you took your time and did what you needed to, and you ultimately it worked out.
Yeah. So going into college, I was like, I'm gonna be a nurse. It's gonna be so cool. And then I realized I hate needles. And which is funny because I have a bunch of tattoos, but like those needles that like stay in you, the IVs, not for me. And then the fact of like, or the idea of giving that to somebody, like I would not want to
Mm,
do that. Um, so I quickly changed my major, like within, I don't even know. It was bad. My friend called me like what did she call me? Um, a major like gypsy because I just moved around a bunch. Yeah, so I went nursing. Then I went to teaching because I was like, you know what? Like, we have a teacher in our family, right? Like, mom did it.
mm.
I would help like younger siblings with homework or
Mhm.
like want to be a teacher when I was younger.
Shout out to Meg
Or
helping
it'd
you with
always
homework.
be always be like the little brown noser in class, right?
Mm,
Um, so I was like, you know what? Maybe a teacher. Then I switched again. I just got my general AA. Then I went for occupational therapy, which I really thought I was going to stick with that one, but then I got to the point where I was like, this is not me. I'm like, I don't like for teaching. I was like, I want to have a bigger impact, which I know occupational therapists have like the things that they do. It's so impressive, right?
yeah.
But like you said, like shaping those young little friends, like
Yeah.
that's kind of where my mind went.
Mm,
So then I went the route of like psychology and sociology and dove into that because I was like, maybe I could be a psychologist, like in a school or
mm.
counselor. But then I was like, that would make me cry every day. And I don't think I'd want to cry every day.
Yeah.
So um, then I finally found teaching again. So um, again, went through a bunch and I have a bunch of random credits now that are for nothing. But yeah, in the end, I should have just went with my gut the second time around and
There you
just
go.
teaching because I knew I wanted. I don't know, and the idea of like being able to coach to like that made the most sense. I think
Mm,
like with teaching coaching, like I could help shape the young little peeps in the classroom, help them kind of figure out who they are, help develop their fun little personalities, how to handle conflict. So kind of be almost all of those
mm.
careers that I like was kind of dipping my toes in, right? But teaching kind of encompasses a wide range of
Absolutely.
um, majors, I think. Like not to the extremes, obviously, but like with all the recess drama, you got to
Yeah.
be able to handle the conflict, kind of conflict resolution, all those things. Um, Nurse, got to put those band-aids on those kids, even if they're not bleeding, because
Yeah,
that's
you
what's
gotta
going to calm them down. Just kidding.
No, it's true. It's true.
But
And all those credits came in handy. You get to learn different fields
yes,
to be able to apply them to what you're doing now. I think
yeah,
that's awesome. But like I said, I wanted to touch upon that because I know in my own life, like there's times where like, what's God's will for my life, or what do I want to, what where do I feel led to do, and ultimately, you came back, and God came back to what you truly called to do. And from
Mhm.
what I hear, you love it, and you love coaching, you love teaching, and you get to be around some of your favorite people all the time, and which
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah. I think the biggest, like, pivotal point for me, well, I guess 2, but they kind of go hand in hand.
Hmm.
So, like, I mean, Route 91,
Yep.
right? I was there, super just life-changing, right?
Hmm.
Super traumatic. Um, and I was able to talk with a therapist that
Hmm.
kind of had me fall back on what I know, right? Or
Hmm.
what I
Hmm.
like it took a lot to I'm trying to like figure out how to word it, but to unpack,
Yeah.
right? But to again fall back on your faith, right? Because that's
Hmm.
the one thing that stays constant even in
Hmm.
those horrible things
For
that
sure.
happen for some reason, and again you're
Hmm.
like, why? Um but like after that it took a lot for me to kind of come back, but she opened my eyes a lot and like what I actually wanted in life, because
Hmm.
again with the like um what is the word, um there's a word for it, I can't think of it right now, but when you survival's grief or
Hmm.
survivors
Yeah. Yeah. Guilt. Guilt.
guilt, thank you,
Yeah.
like that, it kind of makes you think of like, okay, like I wasn't meant to die, so what am I supposed to do,
Hmm.
and then so yeah, that was a big one that kind of led me here, and
Hmm.
then also obviously Mike, right, because
Yeah.
he grew up in the faith school, and in um, just that environment, and then after meeting him and having this opportunity, it definitely allowed me to just get back to it and get a little deeper in my faith, so it was good.
That's awesome. So, I think there's a lot to unpack there, but Meg has some of the most interesting life stories. She's been a part of some really, really
I love that.
unfortunate events, but also has won like the most random tickets and like from calling radio shows, has done like some of the most crazy things when it comes to that. Went to a Knights game and had some luck at like a raffle and things, but things like that. Like,
Yes.
but then again, and I don't mean to make this as a joke, but it's really wild to see some of the extremely good and some of the extremely, tough things that you unfortunately had to experience. But I think it really shapes who we are and molds us. But like you said, the one thing that's constant throughout that is God and our faith, right? Like no matter the highs and lows and the things that we experience. And I think that's really important to the listeners. It's like God does not change. He does not move. He is forever constant, and he goes before us and whatnot. And I'd love to talk about just a little bit about your faith journey. You don't have to go too deep into it unless you want to. But just kind of talk about basically, where you grew, how you started in your faith and how it evolved to where you are now.
Hmm. Um, so I mean, you grew up in the same household, so you can kind of help me out with this. But
For sure.
um, I don't know. Growing up, we kind of bounced around from church to church. It wasn't ever like consistent,
Yep.
but I
We were
think just
creasters. Christmas and Easter, we would go. That was what I told people. That's what we
yeah.
were. We were
Until
creasters.
we found like random churches that mom would like want to go test out, and then we go for a couple weeks, and
Yep.
then it's just I think an odd upbringing
For
when
sure.
it comes to our faith,
I can attest to
but
that.
we got exposure in like
For sure.
all sorts of ways. So it's very complex, I think. Um, but I remember there was a church. I don't remember where it was. I think it's in Nevada, but it was like after you were born, and then Ronnie Boy, so my
Nice.
biological dad, was like going through hardships and like health
Mm.
issues. You were born going through your craziness and health issues, and I went to mom and was like, I need to be baptized. And she was kind of like, Like, what? Like, because we never, like, talked about that stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I was, like, 6, 5. She's like, "Who are you? Like, what are you my daughter?" type of thing, you
Yeah.
know? Um, but I, like, decided on my own at that age, and I remember it vividly. I was like, "I know I can't help them, but, like, if I become a part of God's family, I know I can help others, like,
Mm.
and be a light for others."
Mhm.
I mean, I probably didn't say that when I was 5, but it was along those lines. Um, and so I remember getting baptized with mom because she chose to get baptized as well.
Mm.
So that was kind of special. And then, yeah, again, then growing up, we just popped around. I know dad would have like random times we want to read the Bible or like share some stories. So just super, just not consistent, I guess. But
For sure.
again, I don't think it necessarily needs to be consistent in
Mm.
a way. I don't know. Because I mean, I still like know that God is there or knew, right? When
Mhm.
I was growing up and like even through all those hard times or like your weird early, late or early 20s when you're crazy, whatever
Mm.
happens. And like you can always lean back on him,
Mm.
right? But I think kind of hit like just we kind of just never talked about it.
Mm.
I think as a family. And then
For sure.
in college, I started dating a guy that was like super, super religious, which I I loved how he was so involved and like wanted to be involved, but it had to be that way
Mm.
or no way.
Mm.
And I was not about that way. Like I was not, it was just very controlling. And
Mm.
I think that's where it, um, I don't know, like you always hear about people not wanting to attend church and things like that because of people that are so just controlling about it, I guess is the
Mm.
best way,
Mhm.
to put it. And so I kind of went along with it for a little bit. Felt like I was just in like a, mm, I was like a robot or something, which I know is really messed up to say, but I was a little bit of a robot. And then once I got out of that relationship, I kind of just did my own thing for a little bit. Um, and then that's when like Route 91 happened.
Mm.
And I really just pushed away from all the things
Mm.
because I was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like, why is this happening? And all the things. And I was never able to really process it or anything like that until I did. Like, it took somebody like telling me straight up, like, you are here still,
Mm.
like, for a reason.
Mm.
I know it might suck or you feel a certain way right now or you're still having PTSD, like all those things, but
Mm.
you need to be willing to try to go back to what you like not were raised with, but like what you I don't know, like what you know.
For
So
sure.
that's when I started diving back in and like I would attend church um even by myself. Felt a little weird, but I was like, it's okay. um,
Yeah.
and then I met Mike and we made like a pact together. We're like, you know what? We're gonna go to church or watch it online like as often as we can. Um, and so that that became our like faith together, which was kind of nice. Well, not our faith, but you know what I mean? Like our
Yeah.
journey, which was
Mhm.
nice to have somebody who was on the same level with you. I
Mm.
guess it wasn't a controlling thing. It was a partnership in that, and that we
For sure.
both can pray together. We both can go to church together. We both can do devotions together. Like,
Mhm.
and that we both work at a Christian school. Like, I love being able to talk with my kids about it. We do religion every day. We have
That's cool.
chapel every Wednesdays. I'm able to like talk about or unpack that message with them when they get back to class. So I think that answers your question. I
No,
don't know.
absolutely, it does. No, I think
Sorry,
no,
I
you're
ramble.
good. I think it's sometimes when we experience trauma, we like you said, you have to fall back on what you know and fall back on the constant and what's always
Mhm,
there. And like, unfortunately, like we have to extreme or experience some sort of trauma in our lives. And but I do remember, through that journey for you, just on the outsider looking in, like that took you some time to get to that point, right? And so for
mhm,
everybody listening, like if you've experienced something super traumatic, or anything in life like that, where I would recommend, like, just don't be hard on yourself. Like, it's a process,
mhm.
right? Like, I'm speaking for you. Maybe you could talk about this a little bit, but just kind of, it's okay and to be unpack that, and you'll
Yeah.
get through it if you use your resources and support system.
Yeah,
You
it definitely does not help to keep it in. Definitely needs to be unpacked, and even yes, I seeked a therapist, right?
hmm
Um, but, like, diving deeply into the church, like, that helped too. I talked with the pastor here at our church. I talked
No,
with and, like, the weird thing about trauma, it, like, happens, and then everybody how they handle it afterwards is obviously different, but it's like you're almost stunned for a long period of time, and then you grieve. Sorry.
you're
Um,
good.
sorry.
You're
I'm
good.
still at school. Um, can I turn that down? Okay.
Yeah, no
Never
worries.
mind. They're done now. Then you like grieve and then you start to kind of process it slowly. But like I realized after like 2 weeks, like I hadn't listened to music.
Mm,
Like I refused to listen to music. And then I was like, all right, something's wrong with me. I should probably and not wrong, but like I need
for
to
sure.
unpack this. I need to just make sure I'm okay. Right.
hmm
Um, and then like you get to that point and it comes and goes in waves. Like some things still might trigger it even
mm,
6 years later, right?
for sure.
Um, but again, having that constant, like you said, and being able to fall back on that was super helpful because then not long after that, we lost Claire, our
hmm
sister,
Yeah,
which I was like, all right, like another super traumatic thing, right?
for
That
sure.
you don't ever think is going to happen to you,
hmm
which I think is right to say for any type of trauma, right? Like
Absolutely.
you hear about it always happening to other people or whatever, but you just don't ever think it's going to happen to you and then it does and same thing. Like then you're back in that like little hole
Mm,
and you have to figure out how or what's going to help you get out
mm,
of that and um, that for Claire, I never saw a therapist, but I did speak with like pastors here
mm,
and unpacked a lot with them and
for
my
sure.
principal. I was like, you've been through a lot with me. But yeah. So but again, I think the biggest thing everybody goes at it their own way and it
Mm,
has to happen at their pace
mm,
with whatever trauma, right? Like you have to be ready. Cause I just remember like the night of Route 91, mom was like, you need to go talk to I was like, whoa, I still don't even know what happened, right? Like
yeah.
I was still just like I hadn't cried. I hadn't like I didn't even know.
Mm,
So it's not always like an immediate
mm.
fix. It takes time and effort from that person that's in it, I think, to try to come out of that. So
Absolutely. And I'll say from a family member's perspective, you can sometimes see like I hope talking about this doesn't, trigger anything, but I know for me on an outsider perspective, like being a family member, like I remember kind of feeling like helpless in a way because like, when it's a sibling and it's someone you love. And I remember when this first happened, it was like there was nothing I could do, right?
mhm,
And like to give you peace, and there's nothing people we really can do other than offer like our listening and just being there for that person. And like you said, when it's their time to open up to you, you just be there for them. But and ultimately, the most powerful thing we can do is pray, right? We can go to God and just say, hey, like just give them, strength and the peace to be able to overcome, or not even necessarily overcome. It's probably not the right word, but to be able to deal with this in the proper way. And I just
Yeah.
remember from being a younger kid too, and you're a little bit older than me, and but like you have as a family member, you have this sense of like you wish you could change it or it's something you could do. But I just remember
Mhm.
that feeling of like, you know what, like the biggest, the best thing I could do right now is pray and
Yeah.
just let you know that like I love and care about you. And when you're ready to talk about it and you want a different perspective than mom and dad, or just like want someone to just talk, or listen, like the most powerful thing is listening. Like
Yeah.
sometimes, like off topic, but funny. Like dad, we talk about things, but I would tell dad, I'm like, I don't want advice. I just want you to listen. And like
Yeah.
oftentimes with parents, they'll want to fix and problem solve and give you advice instead of just
Yeah.
being there as a listener. And I think just sometimes in life, you just have to listen. You
Yeah.
just have to be there and let them know you love them and you care
Yeah.
for them, and just listen. I think that's the most
Yeah.
one of the most powerful things we can do.
And that's one thing, like with, like you said, praying, like even if it's not like a whole thing, or like I remember literally laying down in bed because I could not sleep after that. And I just was like eyes up on the ceiling, and I started to just pray to
Yeah,
myself, like in my head, or to
yeah.
God, but in my head. And I was like, I don't know what I'm praying for right now, but I was like, maybe to sleep, maybe to help process.
Mm,
Hopefully nobody's hurt, but like I knew people were hurt. I
mm,
think I was still in shock
mm.
because like just yeah, I was just like, I hope nobody's hurt. Please, yeah. And then like
For
so,
sure.
but I get that, yeah, especially, but the listening is that, and that's something that goes a long way for,
Absolutely.
because I mean, you were there, and
Yeah.
you know some things that with
Oh, I was there.
people that visited that were not listening,
No,
and I was like,
exactly. Yeah,
"What
no, it
the
was
like, fight
definitely
you over here."
no,
Like,
exactly. Here's the thing too to the listeners, like most people, it's coming out of the kindness of their heart, but we just have to understand and have some feel. I think that's the biggest thing. Is like
have some
you
empathy.
you have some empathy, and these things, and it's like, yeah, you might think you're helping, but at the end of the day, you could just be pouring salt on the wound, and so it's just like really just trying to listen and that type of stuff.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about that encounter,
No,
and you know which one,
no,
so I'm
I
just
know exactly what you're talking about. I'm so aware, and it's just
sorry.
wild.
Okay,
And
I'll get back on track now.
no, it's okay, and this is what it's about. But no, I think you have a really impactful journey, and just to see where you're at today and the smile you have, and that's what everybody knows about you, and like knows like when they think of Meg, we think of happy, sappy, smile and like energetic, and volleyball beast and all these other things, and so like seeing you in your element has been awesome.
Volleyball beast, I wouldn't go that far. What does dad say? Dad says I have a credit card
The car
vertical.
vertical.
And I'm like, I probably have that now after my hip surgeries, but I
Talking
have
about
a
hip
block.
surgeries.
I have like 14 blocks recorded. Okay. So,
There you go. Talk about hip surgeries. I have a joke that like Meg's like one of the disabled people in our family because like she's been equally as injured as me because like it'll be
well,
like
I
a
don't know about
hip, a
that.
shoulder, and like
Yeah.
all these other things. But it's wild. So if you would you like to tell the listeners some of the issues you've had, physically. You got some hips, you got some new hips, you got some
Got new
shoulders.
hips at
Nice.
age, wait, how old was I? 25. Yeah, 2021. Well, COVID, Mike and I started golfing a lot more. I started working out a lot more, which was all great,
Yeah.
right? So good. And I felt so healthy. It was wonderful. Until one day my hip hurt, and it continued to hurt. I couldn't sleep. And I was like, something is wrong with my hip.
Mm.
And it was just my left one. So I went to the doctor. They're like, "Oh, it's your back." And I was like, my hip hurts. I don't think it's my back, but okay." So then they had to rule out the back and do all those things. They just, I think, wanted more money, but it's fine. Um, so at that time, again, leaning back on what I know, I was like, please God, like help me figure out what is wrong with me. I just need sleep.
Mm.
And at that time I was still in PE. I was doing student teaching. I was like just 100% still doing everything. And then they were like, "Oh yeah, it is your hip." Like, I'm like, "Yeah, could have told you that about 4 months ago, but here we are." So I had to get labrum repair, and they had to shave down extra bone growth in my left hip. Then I got this awesome hip brace. I was in that bad boy for like 4 no, was it like 3 months? It was a
Looks
long time.
miserable, by the way.
It was miserable. I'm like, maybe I can pull up a picture. I don't think you guys can see it on here, but um yeah, that was miserable. Then, as soon as that one started to feel better, my right one woke up and was like, "Hey, I'm hurt too, but left one was worse, so here we are." So I went back to him, to the same doctor who was amazing, love him, would recommend him. He's actually the Golden Knights doctor, which is
Oh,
kind of
that's
cool,
cool.
or ortho. Um, and I was like, I like my right hip hurts, same exact pain, same exact areas. It's like a mirror. Like, please just go in at this point. I'm like,
Mhm.
I had done PT and all those things before to try to see if that would help. Nothing helped
Mm.
ever. And so he went back in within like 4 months. So I got first one in July, second one in November, and then I was back in that stupid brace. Same brace too. They just flipped it, which I think was worse. But yeah. So
Wow. Shout out to Mike. That's when he got the most points for me. Was seeing him during that recovery was amazing. Obviously,
Nurse Mike.
you literally nursed Mike. But it really showed his character and his commitment, and it's pretty
Yeah.
impactful.
Poor guy
Um,
wanted to propose to me, but he was like, "I figured you didn't want your hip brace in any of the photos," and I was like, "All right,
yes,
you're right." I was
yes,
like, "I appreciate that."
yes. And by the way, he told me when he was gonna propose, and we were out of town, and he told me one time. I knew before anybody else. You didn't know that, but shout out to Mike.
Was that
And
at Matt's wedding when he was
mm-mm,
crazy?
no,
Oh, okay.
it was at a restaurant, or
Oh,
outside of a restaurant.
oh,
But yes,
interesting.
and um, so that's pretty cool talking about that and Mike's loyalty, and I think that's just an important thing because it's like it's very easy to be with someone or to be a friend with someone or a relationship when things are going well and people can help themselves and all that other things. But with your ups and downs, even with your health and things, like he was committed and really cared and
Mhm.
loved you and for who you are. And I think that's really important and really thankful to have him in our family.
Yes.
And
Yes. Guess I'll
we'll
keep
sweet
him.
what?
Said I guess I'll keep him.
Exactly, exactly. So, why not? We don't ever have family members on this, so why don't we take the last few minutes here and you maybe give a couple of your favorite stories of us or me growing up that it could be sports related or I know for me, like I used to enjoy going to all your volleyball games and like I'd sit
Mm,
on like the bench and you'd
yeah.
always try to throw the ball to me. You know how you had like the little volleyballs that
Yeah.
like
Oh,
you
the
guys would
white
throw out,
ones.
the little white ones.
Yep.
And that was always cool.
That was good.
I used to go to all your games
Trying to
growing
think.
up. Meg used to babysit me all the time. We watched
Babysit.
um
Rent.
Rent all the we
Any
watched Rent.
musical on repeat.
Yes. That was
Yep.
really fun and yeah,
Um,
trying to think of
and
any
my hair, but that's like another.
yeah, I don't like
That's
hair.
not a memorable. I mean, it's memorable, but maybe not positive. Um,
uh,
Trying to think like Miracle League stuff. I don't know. I felt like I was like always. Oh, that video
yes,
he
from
made
Kentucky.
from Kentucky. I
Yeah.
think Dan's like really cool
Cool.
because he hurts a lot and like you can get hurt, but he gets hurt a lot harder. Or so like what did I say? It was something so
No, it's literally like
awful.
that
It
verbatim. It was
was so
crazy.
bad.
It was so funny. But in that video, we're like playing in the grass or in
Oh, and the
the
leaves.
leaves, the leaves.
Yeah, that
We
was
were
cute.
so young, but we were just kind of messing around.
Gosh, I looked like good thing for some puberty. Let me tell you, so for some hair. I don't know why mom let me cut my hair the way it was. Like it was
Yeah,
like
we've
this
all had
short.
some wacky haircuts in life.
Can we talk
Matt
about
was
in that whole video how I'm the one that's picking you up too? Like, where are we going?
I know. Yeah. I know. I thought about the same thing. I'm like, you remember in the video, like we're watching Matt's game, and they're like, and I'm yelling at the score when we're killing
You're
the other
yelling at
team.
Papa or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I got in trouble from Dad because we're in the opponent's fan section,
Oh.
and we're winning by a lot, and I'm on the phone, and they're like, asking me like, "What's the score?" And I'm like, "It's 64-13, but we have 64." And Dad's telling me like, "Hey, be quiet, like
Yeah.
everybody look around you," you know. Um,
Yep.
so those are some fun stories.
That was all Kentucky.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
But I just remember a bunch of volleyball in high school. When were you? I remember that. We
Yeah.
used to go
That
to
was
all
pretty
being
much
the youngest sibling, you always go to all the sports.
volleyball is life. Or
Yeah.
baseball.
Baseball, volleyball. Oh, we would go on trips. Some fun power
We
trips.
went to Baltimore.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was fun. Trying to think.
Hmm.
Honestly, I have the worst memory, I think.
That's okay.
Um No, yeah, we did a lot.
For sure.
Trying to think about the house across from Green Valley. What happened
Mm,
there? Any exciting things?
not that I really know of.
No.
But
Oh, we
let's
had the
talk.
dog that would always bark at you.
Oh, yeah, but let's talk about
Sorry.
the you talk about faith a little bit, and why do you feel like being able to share your faith in school and your job is important to you, and how that affects the way you teach and that type of stuff.
Mm, that's a good question. Um, I mean, I think, like I said earlier, like I enjoy being able to have that open conversation with the
Mm,
kids. Um, but I think it's like being able to pray with them too.
mm,
And kind of showing them that like you don't have to be like ashamed or nervous to do that,
mm,
you know? Um, and I mean they're only 8, so they don't really know either way, but
yeah,
just trying to help them figure that out for themselves. I don't try to like cram it down their throat, right? Like we
mm,
have religion, we talk about it openly, I answer their questions, like things like that. And I think the biggest thing is teaching them how to pray, right? It's not
mhm,
like wishing for things, right? You're
mhm,
more thanking God, right? We always talk about the 5-finger prayers.
yep.
Um, but I think just in the way I'm trying to figure out how to word it. Sorry. Like I don't go around and always talk about faith, if that makes
Mhm,
sense. Like
mhm,
we do religion, we have those things, but I think in the way that I act, in the way
mhm,
that you respect one another, I think the way like when we go into chapel, I'm like, guys, whose house are we entering?
mhm.
Right? And they're like, God or Jesus. And I'm like, right. So how should we be acting right now? Should we be jumping on the chapel chairs? No. Right? So just trying to guide them to again, yeah, I guess just be that light for others and be those I don't want to say leaders, but just like lead by example because I think
Mm,
that goes a really long way, especially at this age. Like we mentioned, like having empathy for
mhm,
others and showing that you care for others and those type of things. I don't know. We
for
talk
sure.
about the fruits of the spirit a
Mm,
lot. Um, yeah, because that kind of is a good connection for them at this age.
for sure. I
So,
think that's a really important thing. Breaking it down for younger kids can be a little bit more challenging, right? Because it's like
mhm,
they have their own things that they're wrestling with. They have um, whatever the case may be, right? But
yeah.
and obviously they're still learning a lot. So I give a lot of credit to people who are able to break it down to where the kids can resonate a little bit. And So shout out to you guys that are able to do that.
Thanks. Yeah, some of the like Bible stories we read, they're like, what? And I'm like, well, let's take it back a notch. Like, what is Jesus trying to tell us here? What
Mm,
is like what is yeah. Or what was I'm trying to think of who we're reading about right now. I know we just read like when Jesus feeds the 5,000.
mm.
And I was like, okay, so what's the message? Like, they're like, like Jesus fed them. I'm like, okay, but how is that possible? Like,
Mm.
it's not like so. Um, just again trying to relate it to little people words and try to help them make those connections and understand. The biggest one is the fruits of the spirits. I'm like, okay, we got love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, and self control. That's a big one.
Yeah.
I'm still working on that one over here.
Yeah, that's probably the most important one for the elementary school age. Self control. Keep your hands
Yes.
to yourself. It's your personal space. Still
Yeah.
talk about bubbles, right? Is this your bubble? Like
No, but for
no.
some of them, I'll tell them like, guys, hands to ourselves. Like that's something we teach and learn in kindergarten. I'm like, do
For
we need to
sure.
go back there? Like, no. I'm like, are you sure? Maybe. I'm like, okay, bye. I'm just kidding. Just
No, I think Meg would be. I obviously have never seen Meg teach. I've seen her coach. Meg would be an incredible teacher. I know she is. And as a coach, I think Meg is hilarious and awesome as a coach too. Depending on what's going on, it's so fun. We're so much alike because
yeah.
I think one of the biggest things that Meg and I have in common is we wear our heart on our sleeves. Like people can tell the way we feel by our emotions, like by our faces. Like, cause like
Oh, I
some
can't hide
people,
anything.
no,
It's
me
so
neither. Like I'm so bad at it. Like so, if you're like coaching and you're like fired up in your team, you can see the red, like the sweat,
bad. Oh
but if like you're excited, like everybody in the whole building can tell you. And so I just remember like watching Meg coach the freshman team, and she'd just be like,
yeah.
you know, just like locked in and
Straight
like.
face. Gotta be with those little freshies. They don't know anything.
No, but you had a couple of really good and nasty freshman teams, couple years,
That is true. 1 year we
and they
only
were
lost
fun to
one
watch,
game.
huh?
So 1 year we only lost one game.
Yeah, me and
That's
Ronnie
it.
Boy would sit together and enjoy the games. Oh
Yes.
man,
Yes.
nah, shout out to
Well, you'll
Ronnie
see
Boy.
me in action tomorrow if you come to my game
Okay, where do you play?
at Faith.
Oh, there you go. Nice. Well, maybe I will. But hey, you know what, Meg? I appreciate you stopping by and
Yeah.
hopping on today's episode. I really appreciate the vulnerability, and I think that your story could really make an impact on the listeners. I think the whole goal of this podcast is just to share a variety of life journeys and how God has always been at the center and has always protected us, even if it doesn't necessarily look like it. And we've had other traumatic things going on. But look at you now. Look where you
Yeah.
are. You just got married. And yeah,
Thank you. Before you go, actually, because like at our school we have to do devotion every
yeah,
day, or not every day, but like I'm in charge of the devotion next week for our faculty meeting.
yeah.
Um, and it's actually talking about like getting out of your comfort zone.
Okay.
Um, and the person I listened to, he said, sometimes it is the devil who's giving you comfort, and it is God who's putting you in the conflict.
Mm,
And Jesus was sent to like confront people,
mm,
right? Not necessarily comfort.
mm.
And so I kind of like that. I was like, it kind of what you said just made me think of that.
No,
But
I love that. And I think like, and that's when I tell people like when you're uncomfortable, I think that's a good sign you're in the right spot. I know like
yeah,
I know in my own life, like I'm in the season of, like pursuing ministry, going back to school, like all these other things, right? Like I have a job interview tomorrow, and that's like I completely switched careers. I'm kind of like moved out on my own. I got all these bills and things, but I'm like when I know it's like a little uncomfortable, and I know I'm doing the ministry and all these things, it's like it's God's letting me know that like you're growing and like you're in the right place for your life and the will for your life. So I think that's an important
yeah,
message, right? When you're comfortable, you're limiting your growth and you're
yes.
limiting your potential because you're not allowing
I'm gonna
God to
steal
grow you.
that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna write it down.
Yes, write it down.
Sorry. You're limiting your growth. I like that.
Thank you. Yeah, we drop bangers here every episode, so tune in, people. But awesome, Meg. The way I
Sorry.
like to the way I like to close this out every time is I end it with a prayer. I just like to give it back to God, allowing us to be able to just reflect on this amazing conversation and just pray that whoever listens to this receives whatever they're meant to receive, and that we know that whoever God plans to listen to this or whatever part they listen to, we just pray that they're able to you know uh receive and take in what they're supposed to. So let's go to God in prayer. So,
Mhm.
dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for allowing me to have Meg on this podcast. As you know, love her very much, and her story is super inspiring. And God, I think it's a testament for don't judge a book by her cover, in the way that there's sometimes we have people on this earth that might look, 100% healthy, or might look like they've never experienced anything, or they had a perfect childhood. They got a big family, both parents, all these other things, but we don't necessarily know what people are going through, God. And I think it's a great testament to just being there for people, and regardless of what it looks like, we don't know what they're experiencing, so we just be there and listen. God, I pray that whoever listens to this today can just get an understanding that we want to be able to be there for our loved ones and people we don't know, and we love them where they're at, we listen to them, and we provide our guidance and our prayer for them, Lord. And I just thank you for having Meg in our family, and the great memories we've created and will create in the future. And Lord, I just want to give this all to you, and this platform to you, that you just allow your people and whoever want to listen, and they can grow from this. And we ask this all in Jesus' holy name, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen, Meg. All right.
Amen. All
I
right.
will talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Peace out. Bye.